Hey everybody, it's Sarah and welcome back to my channel. Today is Saturday and I am bringing you a documenting process video. You are going to watch me document the first couple weeks of May here. I have my new Studio Calico Mint 9x12 and I grabbed a 5 from the Allie Edwards Week in the Life kit from last year, and then I dumped in a little bit of Lucy's cards mix. I believe it was called Pink Lemonade, and then I'm going to pop in a couple of resin stars from L Studio. If you didn't catch my last video, I am using the Studio Calico May Documentor kit, and I also added a bunch of stuff from my stash. So you might want to check out that video and see what I'm going to be using, not only in this video, but probably in at least one more, because the way that I'm documenting now, it isn't taking me like 4 to 6 hours a month to just get my project life kind of stuff done. It's taking me less time, so I'm definitely enjoying that. So now I just got gold thread in my sewing machine, and I'm fighting with it a little bit, not a lot, just a little, to get that pocket sewn up. I think I have too thick of a needle in there, and it's not really agreeing with the plastic page protectors, but it's working good enough to look halfway decent, so I'm happy with it. So now here are some pictures from the first week of May. There's my husband and I getting ready to leave for our Door County weekend. There's a picture of our crimson maples that were just, like the leaves were just coming out. And then that is the Hey There card from the Studio Calico kit, which kind of gave me my initial idea to add this Dear Lizzie collection to it. Before the video started, I stuck that journaling card through my We Are Memory Keepers typewriter and got my journaling done beforehand, because my typewriter is definitely off camera. It is very far to my left as I'm sitting. The camera wouldn't reach, and I don't want to pick it up and plunk it into the middle of camera view. So I'm just adding a plus in wood and also in the puffy sticker. And then those came in the kit. They are vellum speech bubbles, and I didn't know how much I would use a speech bubble, so I just cut the actual pointy part off to kind of make them more just of a layering item for that one. And then I grabbed a Dear Lizzie tag and talked about how all of the beautiful trees were blooming all over the neighborhood that week. That is a 4x6 Dear Lizzie that I cut from a 12x12 pattern sheet, and now you're just going to watch me kind of goof around with my title card for a little bit. Last year my title cards were very embellished, a lot of layers, a lot of stuff going on, and then now so far this year my January, February, March, and April all fit into one beautiful mess album that was 9x12, and it was much more simplified than it was last year, but now I'm going to try to go for a little bit of a marriage between the really simplified look with just cards stuck in pockets with a little bit of documenting and some journaling, and kind of a mix of embellishments and my either Studio Calico kit or my Messy Box kit every month too. And I'm just going to use my Tombow Mono Aqua to glue that rubber word May on there. And I really want to get that little wood veneer that says life stuck on there. And it does take a while for that wood to kind of stick down to that rubber. So I'm going to kind of leave it out of the page protector for a while. And now you're going to watch me really goof around and try to figure out what to stick under that May, because to me there was a little bit of open space there, and the super embellishing part of my brain is saying, find something to put there, find something to put there. And I thought about doing the rabbit, because I did say I didn't know how I felt about rabbits in May, and I thought that would have been good, but I thought that it didn't get along very well with the May because they were both white embellishments, and then that just kind of all got washed out. So I'm going to stick everything in my pockets and think about things for a minute. Kind of play around. That's what I like to do a lot, is just put stuff somewhere and see how I like it. I like to mix textures. I like to mix colors. I don't like to have too many of the same element on a card. And I'm not really missing anything on that card except maybe a puffy sticker, but I think that would have gotten lost. So now I am going to jump to my acetate overlay, which is kind of, it's a 9x12 divider that came from A Beautiful Mess. And I'm going to grab those really cool thickers from the Amy Tangerine collection last summer, and I'm going to spell out spring because I'm down to 2 dividers. So I figured I would just do one for spring and one for summer, and then hope Messy Box or A Beautiful Mess comes out with another set of acetate dividers, or maybe I'll just make my own. I could do that. So then I typed out a quick spring quote that I just found on Pinterest. You'll be able to see it closer in the close-ups at the end. And now I'm still playing around with that rabbit. I'm thinking I'm going to use that rabbit eventually here. But then I decide on some stars. I grabbed a pink, a yellow, and then I'm going to switch out that teal one on the bottom for that darker teal. And then I do decide to go with my AC redline tape because I figured that eventually the Tombow Mono Aqua, because the acetate is flexible, that it might pop off eventually, and I don't want to lose those resin stars. And I know for a fact that if I use that AC redline tape, that those stars aren't going to go anywhere ever. So that is always a really safe option when you are putting something on the outside of a pocket, or if it's something that's not going to go into a page protector and be protected. So then I'm just going to pop that guy on there, and I am happy with that. Now I'm going to take that guy out of the binder just so you can see the back. And I'm going to grab the rest of my pictures from that first week of May. Notice I'm still not numbering the weeks. I'm just dating wherever I see fit. In 30 years, no one's going to care if it was May 1st or May 3rd that something happened on. So there's one of those Becky Higgins Fuse 4x6 pockets. They're meant to use with the fuse. I like to fill them with beautiful sequin mixes and sew them shut, and then use redline tape to adhere them to the outside of my page protector. That picture, that 4x6 that's kind of dark, I lightened it up the best that I could, and it still printed out kind of dark, so I thought this is the perfect situation to cover it up with a beautiful sequin mix. So I just typed out concert on my typewriter, so it says choir concert, and then I'm going to grab the peacock sequin mix from Lucy's Cards eventually, after I decide how much blue is going to end up on my layout, and pink. And then I'm going to sew it shut with my sewing machine. So I decided on that other blue and pink card because that was kind of the main 2 colors I was going to go for on this side of my layout. And I'm just kind of flipping through my cards, figuring out which one I want to use. This month I felt like there was a lot of filler cards. There was not a ton of journaling cards. The back is always good for journaling, but then when the front is something so gorgeous, you hate to just use it for journaling. So that card said on my desk, and I didn't think I would ever use that one. So I stuck one of the pieces of paper ephemera, or the paper die cut from Dear Lizzie, and I just stuck that on, and I also added I added a couple of staples from my tiny attacher. Here I'm finally adding the sequin mix from Lucy's Cards. Like I said, that one is called Peacock. And then I am going to add like 3 little resin stars from Elle Studio, and I'm going to sew it shut. And like I said, my thread in right now is gold, but the bobbin is just a very thin, almost see-through white, so it's not that bad. So now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do to that 4x6 picture of my trees in my backyard. I kind of wanted to use another one of those vellum and have that kind of be an ongoing theme, but it was just covering up too much of the trees. So then finally, I'm hemming and hawing and everything is covering up too much of the tree. I decide on just that hot air balloon eventually. I was also binge watching Twin Peaks, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm scrapping a little bit slow this afternoon because I want to catch up on both seasons before the new season comes out on Showtime in a couple weeks. So now I'm actually going to do some handwritten journaling because I am trying to mix my handwriting with also typewritten journaling. I think that adding your own handwriting is so important because it shows really who you are, and I love seeing other people's handwriting. It's just so fun. So that's just some handwritten journaling about what was going on in these pictures. That picture of my house was actually a photo prompt for paper issues this month, one of the prompts was yellow. And my house is butter yellow, so I thought, hey, how perfect. So here I wanted to have one more embellishment on that 4x6, and that orange chipboard piece says wide open spaces. So I thought, oh boy, I got a lot of orange there, I better get some more orange going. And then that orange is vellum. And I put it on top of that picture of my daughter and I getting groceries, and you couldn't really read what it said anymore. So I thought, oh boy, what am I going to do here? So what I actually end up doing is grabbing one of the 3x4 cards that I just knew I wasn't going to use after I contemplated punching some hearts out of that orange card. And I very carefully cut around it and then end up using my tiny attacher to get it onto that photo. So if you have a vellum piece that is just too see-through, a really good trick is to just put it on top of white scrap paper, white anything paper, and then magically you can read behind it. And this did take a little bit because that teal scissors, as much as I love it, it isn't really very straight. So this was a little tricky. Plus, Agent Cooper was getting shot as this was happening, so my attention was a little bit distracted because I remember a lot of season 1 of Twin Peaks, but I don't remember a lot of season 2. But I was also like 12 or 13, so that was quite a while ago. So I'm just going to grab my tiny attacher here and staple it on, and then give it one last trim at the bottom just to make sure that everything is flush and level. And then I want to get at least one more plus sign on this layout too. And we are almost to the end of things. I'm going to kind of look around my desk a little bit more and see if there's anything else I'm really wanting to use. I'm going to get everything stuck in the pockets. And I have learned that when I trim my 3x4 photos down, I need to trim about just the tiniest bit off of both sides of my pictures because these pockets don't seem to be a true 3x4, they're just under. So here is a quick shot of me putting that AC redline tape onto that Becky Higgins Fuse flip pocket. So I just add a line of it, cut it down to exact size, and stick it onto the top. So now, if you're going through my album, you can just flip that up and try to find my daughter in amongst all the other little choir goers. So anyhow, here are some close-ups of my layouts that I have done for you today. Look for another video from me next Wednesday and also next Saturday. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye.